Okay, hello Tamlin. How are you doing? Welcome to the Digital Business Podcast, a place where
Thank
we're
you.
discussing, all right, a place where we're discussing all things digital business for Africa or in Africa, discussing all kinds of case studies. It's good to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a really exciting opportunity to have these conversations. Thanks, Ame.
Yes, it is. So much has changed. 2020, so much has transformed. I mean, the world where we used to know it has entirely changed, but we also believe that it affords so many opportunities, especially when we're discussing digitalizing businesses in Africa, to be more specific. So tell me, what is on your mind? What do you think about digitalizing of businesses landscape as it is now in Africa?
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think COVID and 2020 has definitely seen some immense amount of change and adaptation and agility required from a lot of businesses. But I must say, I feel like even before that, digital business and digital transformation in Africa is still behind, and it is still struggling. And from what I've seen is obviously there is an immense amount of opportunity and potential. Just looking at the mobile penetration we even have in our population groups, I mean, we have the access just in terms of basic accessibility to things, and yet yes, it's still a struggle to see digital businesses really trying to adapt and adopt change. And I think the deeper question behind all of that is really our ability to innovate, what we think about innovation, and even just applying an innovation mindset to all our digital businesses is lacking because and we don't understand it yet. So yeah, just from what I've seen in my industry, it feels like a lot of the time digital businesses are really just digital followers or digital laggards as opposed to digital leaders and digital adopters. So, and I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that we don't understand digital. We don't understand the core purpose of why we're changing there, why are we using these things, and essentially what is the value of our businesses really at the end of the day. If we had to strip away digital, if we had to strip away our shops and our businesses, what is it at the end of the day that is really driving our businesses forward? So yeah, I think there's two conversations to be had around digital business in particular, and that is firstly, what is the actual value of your business, and also what is your your innovative capacity? Like, what do you understand to be innovation, and how are you using it and applying it?
All right. I like what you mentioned about innovation and how we as entrepreneurs, people that are leaders in business in Africa, may need to have a little bit of a change or maybe a huge mindset focus and an approach. And I am so privileged to have you here because you have so much experience in the industry. And I'd like you to just tell our audience, just share with us what can be done, what can digital business owners do in Africa, or even businesses that have not had any sort of digital adoption of any kind. What can be done? Where do we start? What do we do?
Mm. Yeah, so I really love, and I'm going to steal Unilever's their brand mantra, which I think is so at the core of really what we're trying to say. And what they say is that brands with purpose grow, companies with purpose last, and people with purpose thrive. So I think like the key word in all of that is purpose. And I think so many of the time we are, and especially on, you know, when we're struggling with money, we really want to try and get a business going. We skip that step of purpose. We just want to imitate. Um, we just want to jump that step to getting the business going without actually doing the hard work of picking apart what really is my purpose in this business? Like, what value am I really bringing? And deeper than that, it's what problem am I solving? And that's when we start talking about an innovation mindset. You know, and it's hard because we need to hit our KPIs, we need the revenue, we need to see the numbers rolling in. But before we need to do that, we need to sit down and really cultivate what is the problem that I'm trying to solve at the end of the day. And if you can manage that, if you at even a deeply personal level of what my purpose is here, I feel like that creates the sustainability that your business needs to be able to grow into a digital space, to be able to grow and adapt and be agile. I mean, just for example, Nando's. We all know and love Nando's. And what's quite obvious there is that, you know, the chicken sells itself, right? It's flame grilled chicken. And yet, you know, they haven't made huge digital leaps forward in their market space. However, they're still innovative. Well, one of the most innovative and sort of most interesting brand we've seen online. And why? Because they've identified their purpose as being the voice of the people. They're being the taste of the people, and they're engaging in conversations that bring out what it means to be South African, what it means to, I don't know, love chicken, for example. And even just if you jump on their Twitter immediately, I mean, there's no budget behind anything, a lot of their conversation on Twitter. It's just being able to tap into those conversations, to tap into the real purpose of why I'm here. And it's to connect and to communicate and to add value to my audience's world outside of the product. But essentially, they've got such a good product, they've got such a good purpose that is then attached to that product, that there's really not much hard work to be left after that, and I think another good example, but this is actually from the States, but I feel like it could be applied to small businesses in Africa. It's actually a toilet paper brand called Charmin. And they had an incredible campaign last year, because as you can imagine, selling loo paper, like what? But they managed to create a Twitter campaign that was so successful, and all it was based on was just that small minor insight of where people are tweeting from the most, or where do you think people are sitting and really looking through Twitter? And that's in the bathroom. And thank goodness the brand is there as well, so it's perfect placement. But they came up with a campaign called Tweet from the Seat. And basically, they just captured a whole bunch of people's thoughts while they were in the bathroom. And it was so simple, and it was so clever, and it was so on brand, literally, but they were really generating conversation and engagement in a unique way that was about their audience. And I think that's another minor issue, with shifting to the innovation mindset, is that it also does require a lot of work in terms of truly understanding the people that you're trying to impact. And when you become a digital follower as opposed to a digital leader, you're just kind of spray and pray marketing and communication that just gets lost in this, expanse of digital communication. And then second to that, the biggest issue, and I'm sure a lot of businesses are feeling this as well, is how do we trust the data that we have, because at the end of the day, it's all about measuring how successful my campaign is, how successful all of this is. But in a country where everyone's got a dual SIM, so even if you're logging into different devices, Google's still reading it as 3 different people, which is incorrect. So again, before we even start, figuring out what is my digital strategy or what mediums I should use, we need to figure out how to develop an innovative mindset in understanding our purpose and what kind of impact and value we really are bringing to our audiences. And the rest should follow. The rest should be easier.
Yeah, I'm really interested even more. I'm on the description of an innovative mindset. You did make mention to the fact that brands should really understand their audience, should understand the people that they are communicating to, which is really at the center of customer satisfaction, which is very, very important as is. So would you just take time and just describe to us what an innovative mindset looks like, or possibly describe to us what is that process of actually even developing an innovative mindset? Are there any steps? Are there any processes that we can follow? Are there any principles in particular that can help someone just check, am I on the right track? Do I fit this description? Just so that people can obviously learn how they can like adapt themselves to be this incredible innovative leader as you had made mention to.
Yes, absolutely. So I think, there's two very important elements to having an innovative mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you need to be cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have a community mindset. You need to be able to think in systems and in networks and in relationships. If you are not connected, there's such a cool quote. It goes, chance or favors the connected mind. And I want to replace chance with opportunity. Because innovation comes from anywhere and from anyone, and it's usually about connecting the dots. There is an element of creative thinking in innovation, but it is not necessarily creativity. So if you are able to establish, just say, for example, in any company, innovation can come from anyone, which means that hierarchy or the current sort of traditional form of business business management is not conducive to innovation. There needs to be an equality. There needs to be a safe space where everyone can sit in a room and essentially address the problem from as many different perspectives as possible. You'll find some of the most innovative companies, you'll have the businessman or the CEO, the CCO sitting down with the interns, really trying to understand and connect with people. And similarly, though, also between different companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, an innovation ecosystem within a country, some of the best innovative countries in the world have very strong linkages between the government, the private, the public sector, and especially the education sector. So the broader your connections you can make with people, the broader your networks, the more conversations you can have with a variety of different people, the more skills you can onboard, the better you are placed for innovation. And secondly, authenticity. So what do I mean by authenticity? I mean, I'm speaking to, again, what is my purpose? What is that particular problem that only I can solve or that my product can solve? And how am I consistently driving an authentic product that is actually driving value for people? How am I improving the lives of people? And I think people also get stuck with innovation in terms of thinking big. They always think disruptive, and they're actually a bit scared. Like when I hear the word disruptive or destructive, I'm like, whoa, my company is not like I'm a beauty salon, man. What am I doing with disruptive, destructive innovation? Well, it's not essentially that. You can have very small incremental changes, but so long as you are making those incremental changes every day or in little bits and pieces at a time, and what that looks like is up to you. The definition for your incremental change is that it is bettering someone's life or it is bettering your service. And it echoes directly then through to your digital communication as well. If I am just posting a million and like Facebook posts a day, just on random things, am I really adding value? Am I really engaging with people, or am I just now polluting the water with a bunch of things? And then also placement is very, very important, because we live in a world now as well where cybersecurity is a huge issue. So placing ads, and reaching your audience in spaces that are not safe, also is, and unfortunately it's the cheapest, which is why people tend to gravitate towards there, but it's really, really, really can be detrimental to your brand. So yeah, that I think just very basically from the start, I think it's cooperation and it's authenticity are the two best places you can start developing an innovation mindset. I think for too long we've been trying to silo ourselves into our own way of thinking, and I mean, we've been saying it since the beginning of time, like we are because I am because we are. So it's only with collaboration and systems thinking can we really start innovating in an interesting way.
I'm enjoying this. This is absolutely like, this is real wisdom. Connecting to people, networking with people, ensuring that you collaborate and you have authentic, you're very authentic, and there are conversations that as a business owner or as a brand, you continuously have with your community. I'll just start with your immediate community. Would you describe to me, I know you as an award-winning storyteller, so this is going to be very interesting. Would you describe to me possibly some of the conversations that we can have like in industry? Suppose take for example, farmer, someone who's in retail, and I would say education. Let me just put these three industries: retail, agriculture, and retail, agriculture, and education. Just give me examples of some of the conversations that you think would help possibly a brand exude its authenticity through conversations on the digital space. Feel free to talk about which platforms might be best for the business to obviously use, and which platforms and why. Now we're getting into the digital communication, digital platforms area. But I would really like to know, like, a scenario. What kind of conversations do you think would be so beneficial for a brand to constantly be part of in order to connect, collaborate, and communicate effectively with its clients and people?
All right, so I think there's a term that I like to use. It's called story thinking. And what I love most about stories, which is very similar to design thinking, which is also very much linked to innovation, is that the thing that links them all together is that every good story, every good design, especially UX, and every good innovation has a problem to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all trying to communicate to something. So obviously I would start with my biggest question to anyone is, what is your business trying to solve? And with story thinking, I usually like to apply something called the hero's journey, which is a very well-known form of story formula or story structure, where in a very basic essence, it's just a hero. You have a hero of the story, and he overcomes a major challenge, and he returns to stasis or a new changed form of mind. So applying this very simple way of thinking of like, okay, well, if I'm the hero in the story, or if my audience is the hero in the story, or if my product is the hero of the story, what is the biggest problem that I need to overcome? And you really do have to think about it as if you were stepping away and watching a film, or if you're stepping away and or it was as if it was a book. And what happens when you start thinking like that is something very interesting happens, that you have sort of a reverse engineering that happens in your brain, because you kind of have to end with you start with the end and you work your way back and say, well, I need to get here, but what are the steps that I need to take to get there? And who's the big bad monster? Or who is my my help, my friend? What are those little steps along the way that is telling the story of who you are? And when you start engaging with that, you'll be surprised at what kind of sort of barriers you had never thought of were there. And when you can use those barriers as insights to engage with people, then you're starting to have a more authentic voice that is both relevant to who you are as a person as well as your brand. So I really encourage whoever you are. I mean, if you're selling pet food, or if you're selling to selling like massive databases of information, it's really important that you understand where your brand, what role your brand plays in the story of your life, in the story of its life, and in the story of the society within which it's within which it's laid. So yeah, I think I don't know if that answers your question.
And you can
But
get into like how we can use, how we can use platforms like, is it Facebook, is it Instagram, is it Twitter? Which platform would be best to host such
Right.
stories of you for different brands? If you can maybe point us to the right ones for this industry,
Yeah.
like what has worked in your expert opinion?
Okay, so we need to be cognizant that obviously social media just is a reflection of society, and as much as society is in flux, so is a social media platform. But what I have seen recently is that Twitter, for example, is a really good listening tool. It's a really good listening tool to follow conversations, to hear what your audiences are moaning about, or loving, or laughing about, and then sort of taking those conversation pointers and joining in on that conversation, and not just about hard hitting, buy my product now today. It's really about engaging with them in their space and on their terms and what they like to talk about. And that's how you show the relevance and authenticity of your brand, is how naturally you can actually communicate with them. So Twitter is a great place to start, just in terms of listening. Facebook and Instagram, this is when we can start also engaging in conversation, but this is when we start driving the conversation a little bit more. So with Facebook and Instagram in particular, we have noticed a huge shift toward a lot more media and video-based content. And within that, I know it can be quite intimidating when somebody says, okay, now we want a video for your brand. But it can be as simple as popping onto your phone and recording a video message of yourself saying like, hey guys, do you struggle with constipation? I don't know, something along those lines. But it really is, people want to see who you are. They want to see that you're authentic. And especially in a day and age where we can't trust everything we see online. In fact, 80% of the stuff we're seeing online is a scam, or it's fake news, or like, so we really, the audience need authenticity. They need trust. They need to be able to trust you. And it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of effort and time. It really just does take a little bit of time spent on what problem am I really trying to solve, and how do I speak to my audience in the most authentic way that's natural to me and to them.
Okay, all right. And you mentioned something about purpose, how it is so linked to authenticity. I want to go back to that because I want us to also discuss even further, like the problems that we have in Africa, from poverty to crime to lack of food security to lack of access to just decent public health, all of that. Those are the major problems as would be so popular around. Tell me, give me an example of certain businesses possibly, or an industry that could connect authenticity to purpose, that can solve a problem which might be prevalent in Africa. I don't know if you
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, and I think it's incredibly hard because, again, innovation is a luxury. Purpose is a luxury when you have the time and day to sit and think about it, and instead of worrying about where my next meal is going to come from and what am I going to do. And so a company, it's actually a university, it's called African Leaders University. And it was started in South Africa, but basically what they've been doing to address basically the expense of studying at university and the accessibility. Those are the two major things across Africa that a lot of people have a struggle with. So what this university said was, well, let's create an online university. Let's offer courses and tailor our learning around innovation and entrepreneurship, particularly because what we need to do is teach people how to think innovatively and specifically that's relevant to their communities. So students will be able to study online. They have access to mentors and content. And then for 6 months on and 6 months off, I believe, they apply their knowledge. And once they get their business started, and once they're fully rooted in what they're doing, then they can pay back their school fees. So they're solving two things in a very interesting way, and they're also tapping into an amazing quality that I think Africa in general has, and that is our ability to problem solve. You know, when there's more problems, there's more solutions. And so it really is about how do we make things more accessible, and how do we make things more affordable for the people who we impact. And another really cool opportunity that I've seen a lot of companies start using, also based on accessibility and affordability, is using WhatsApp as a medium of communication and a medium of learning. So it's the sort of the next step in e-learning, is being able to just pop on WhatsApp. You engage with a WhatsApp bot, and you ask whatever content you need, and it pulls from a certain database of information. And it uses very, very little data, and it's in the palm of your hand whenever you need it. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's very exciting for me to think about innovation in Africa, and if we could just have that mindset change of being more collaborative, being more authentic, and actually just learning to look around what's in our current vicinity and to use it to the best of our ability. Because we're so often outward thinking, and you know, if we're not a big business, or if I don't have this, it doesn't matter. What we have, we are so resourceful with what we have in our specific vicinity, and yes, I think we've got a long way to go, but I also think that we have so much opportunity and so much potential to just tap into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really, you know, one great takeaway for me from this conversation is it's okay to be authentic. Actually, if you are authentic, your purpose can serve the community that you're in. And you can easily have conversations that are interesting to the same people that you're serving. And in that way, you are able to connect with them, and it becomes more real with them, especially if you want to have your business exist like digitally. So that is my great takeaway from our conversation. So just to wrap up, I would just want you to let me know, like, what is the one thing that if you could change, like, in the next 5 minutes, and just make available for every business owner in Africa who wants to digitalize, what is the one thing that you would give or would do that you think is the one thing that is absolutely important for us? Obviously, migrate and digitalize in business and solve our problems as they exist in Africa, but from an entrepreneurship perspective. What is the one thing that you could do right now, you could get it done?
Sure. One thing that entrepreneurs could have done. I think just a sharper vision on what their purpose is, like a really sharp vision. I wish clarity on every single business owner and every entrepreneur. I wish upon them the clarity of purpose. That's what I wish, because everything else just needs money.
And you know, I absolutely, clarity of purpose. It actually doesn't take money to have clarity of purpose. It just takes someone sitting down and saying,
I'm serving this community, I intend to serve this community. What am I really doing here?
Exactly.
What am I really doing here? It's something that they can do today. After they listen to this podcast, whenever they listen to this podcast, they watch this episode, they can ask themselves, what is the purpose? What is it that I'm doing? Get clarity. So yeah, so thank you so very much for being here and having this conversation with us. We will definitely work on getting clarity of purpose. We'll definitely ensure that we continuously transform our mindset and our approach to everything so that it encapsulates that innovative mindset, that and that creative storytelling in all our conversations when we seek to obviously share what we stand for as businesses in order to really be able to connect to the African context and bring solutions that are specific for the communities that we stay in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like it, and I think this one last thing is like with the pandemic, I think what it really has shown us is how we've relied so much on the global perspective. You know, we've relied so much on that. And now we've suddenly been brought back to what's at home, what's in our communities, how can we impact the people here and now? And I think that's great. I think if we can start from there,
we can
we'll be doing
something
great.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's time to come back home. We've learned from the pandemic, like what you're saying, because most countries, obviously, they are focusing on solving problems, the immediate problems in our communities. And that's such a beautiful reminder to say we are stronger together, but inwardly looking where you are, there's an impact that you can make that obviously will have a ripple effect. And as a departure point for everybody who's an entrepreneur around Africa, digitalizing your business, even using WhatsApp, like what you mentioned, it's a step in the right direction. Have the right conversations, and we can move on from there. So from me, goodbye from now. And thank you so very much for coming today to have this conversation with us. We are more than privileged and happy to have you here. So until next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Tamlin. Bye-bye.
Thank you.